Hi, welcome to Inside the Moms Club, where being a mom is the coolest place to be. Here in the Moms Club, we believe that what embarrasses you now will make a great story later. And let's face it, if you don't laugh sometimes, you're gonna cry. Join us in having a good laugh together. I'm Monica Samuels. You are now inside the Moms Club, your private destination for all things mom. Welcome, moms. So glad you could join us inside the Moms Club today. I'm Monica Samuels, and I'm here with my co-host today, Leslie Harold.
Hello, hello.
Hello, Leslie. It is an exciting time here inside the Moms Club. Exciting and a little challenging. As you know, I have a new puppy, Luca, who I don't know. I think I've already made a serious mistake. He's been biting me a lot, and I can see that I've got this injury here. Really
that's
grave injury. Yes. So yesterday I called his trainer and I said, I don't know, he's biting me, bit me in the stomach randomly. He's been in attack mode. And she told me that because I started out by sending him to her ranch to start out his life, he got to see the world at the ranch. He got to walk and he got to go to Starbucks drive-thru and he did all these things.
Puppuccinos.
So she said he's bored. So it's like my mom told me this old saying after World War II, which is, how are you going to keep him down on the farm when they've seen Perry? And how am I going to keep Luca not being bored? And so now to just take him everywhere and entertain him constantly. And I guess that's the new thing. So
I don't know though. My dog didn't see a whole lot, but my dog wants to go everywhere I go. He's pretty solid. Now I told you the other day about this dog biting thing. I'm like, a spray bottle is your friend. Like you just need to get it, nothing cruel, just a little spray in the face.
I got to think of something because I'm going to lose a digit here eventually. First it was this finger, nasty. Now it's that finger. And so,
when it starts getting to stitches, you got to kind of do it. So so you've been traveling some.
I have, and so have you, and you have been working on Blitz Concessions, which is the app that you started.
Yeah, that's my project.
And so now are you like all over the place, or you've got a TikTok thing going, and you're doing all the social media stuff?
Now I can't say I'm a TikToker. I haven't gone there yet. I think I'm a little old maybe for that, but I'm kind of the old school. I think more of my target audience, so to speak, would be parents who have kids that are in high school or doing athletics or just youth activities. And so Blitz Concessions is designed for that. So like in all marketing, you're looking for your target audience. So my target audience is usually volunteer parents who are getting stuck with their fundraiser efforts, their concession stands or whatever. And so so it's really hard to kind of I am one of those people, so I can relate to those people. But the marketing thing is so different than what it used to be. Like I went to school and I was an advertising major, and it was, print, television, it was very simplistic. And now with all the information out there and the social media and all that, like how you reach those people is so different.
It's so tricky to figure things out too, from our generation to like the next generation, our kids.
Yeah.
Because for a while, I know the moms in our school, they tried to stay one step ahead of the kids, or at least we would all, share information like, okay, the kids are on this. And, so this is the info I've gathered from, but then they got Snapchat, and then they managed to,
now they're all in
so
secret.
Far ahead of us. We don't know what,
And like the whole TikTok thing, like I'm like, I don't know, I don't get it. But but they're all following all these people, and they've got so much. There's like my son has got so much information, and sometimes I'm like, wow, how did he learn that? And he'll be like, oh, it's on a TikTok. It'll be something really interesting that he's learned, and I'm like, you got that off of TikTok? Okay, And so there is this whole element of this is how kids are getting information, and young people, and not just kids, but young people. And I'm just not quite there, but I had to hire somebody to do that for me, really, to do my marketing, because I was like, as much as I love it, I think it's beyond like how to do that and how to do it effectively and cost efficiently is beyond me at this point.
It's also cool for the kids because they can be very entrepreneurial. Like one of Jared's friends is an influencer, and when she was 19, she had 100,000 followers. Like,
Oh, my son
Now,
has a kid in his grade who's a sophomore, now
yeah.
a junior, and he's a gamer, and I don't even understand it. Like he has all these people that follow
Uh-huh.
him, and he's making a lot of money as
Yeah.
a 16, 17-year-old kid, and you're like, wow,
Now,
that's cool.
this was entrepreneurial, but I don't know if I totally believed this. I wasn't sure what to think. So, Jared, who's my oldest son, and his roommate from college got a job, and I don't even know what the firm he was working with, but one day Jared came to me and he said, "Ian would like to borrow our pool to host a pool party for young women influencers,"
Oh, of course he would.
because it was a business thing. Now,
I'm gonna write it off too.
I know. I said, being an attorney I said, I'm a little concerned about the liability.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I would hate for one of those.
Jared is just seeing good-looking girls come into his house.
Yeah, I mean,
he's no dummy.
He said it all with a straight face, but I'm like, and knowing his roommate, I thought, not sure about this. But then again, because I don't totally know and understand it completely, may have been totally legitimate, and I might have just been, I probably was, just being a mom. So
yeah, I mean, and so that's the reason these people, I mean, and how do they manage it? Like, how do they manage their, people start out. I mean, I have a friend who got into decorating her house. She's like a big Aggie, Texas A&M. And then she loves doing stuff in her house, and she decorates for all the seasons. And so I follow her because I'm a friend of hers, but obviously she's gone on and gotten, like, you can see it. She has tons and tons of followers, and she gives away stuff, and she does all that. And, I'm just a friend, so I'm just following because she's a friend of mine. But like, she has this whole like faith something in football, and and she's obviously an influencer, and she has a real job. I mean, but she's an influencer, and she's out there creating content. Career, yeah. And it's really, really amazing. And creating content, I mean, how do you stay interesting every single day? Because you have to post, obviously. I mean, I don't know what the number is, but you got to post multiple times a day, or for certainly a week. And you
have to be clever in what if you're gonna.
You gotta be interesting.
Right. Yeah.
I'm not that interesting. I'm not that interesting, like every day, all day, 7 days a week.
No, you are.
I really just want to sit on my couch and pet my dog. You can
make Blitz concessions interesting.
Yes. Well, Blitz concessions is
interesting,
but it is. But it's, you got to have somebody who knows how to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to have somebody who knows how to create it.
That is why we are so lucky today to have as our guest Emily Ward, who is a single mom and the co-founder of the Shine Talent Group, which is the leading influence talent management agency based in Toronto, Montreal, and Los Angeles. She has offices in all those locations. They represent 90 plus influencers and social media talent, and they've represented brands such as Amazon, L'Oreal, Revolve, and Unilever, and created campaigns for them using their robust talent roster of influencers. She is also the co-founder of BodCon, which seeks to promote and inspire body self-confidence. Welcome, Emily. We are so glad and so happy to have you today inside the Moms Club.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Well, tell us a little bit about how you got, so your company, I guess the first thing, I was looking at the processes, how you did. So first it's casting. So you find the influencers. So, well, let's take one step back. How did you get into this to start out with? I know you were a dance major in college, and just tell us a little bit about your, how you ended up
doing this
PR.
This crazy world, for sure. So yes, I did. I started in a dance background, and we often will speak to different colleges and universities, and I love reminding people that, like, I started in a very different space in terms of my education, but what I always did as a young student trying to figure out my place in the world is I always just try to go towards what I found exciting and what made me feel good. And when I was 19 and 20, being a dancer, that's what made me feel really good. That made me feel really great. But as I went through that career in dance, and I realized that, I probably wasn't going to be like a professional dancer for life. And I started to look at different things that I could do within the dance industry. I fell into PR. I thought I was going to do marketing and PR for a dance company. And that led me to get my first job that was actually not in the not-for-profit arts, but on the for-profit side. And I was brought into a small like mom and pop agency to open up a PR department and start working in PR. So it was really led from PR that led us into talent management. I worked at a small agency for a number of years, and I went and worked at a really big PR agency, a global PR agency, for a few years. I loved it there, learned a ton, but the hours were wild. And when I was wanting to have children, I had my son. I'm like, oh my gosh, I cannot go back to a job that has like, you know, it's exciting and amazing, but there is no stability in terms of my day. And some days I would be there to like 1 o'clock in the morning, and it's just not conducive for having, you know, young children. So I took a stab then at freelancing, which was scary. But was really, it was the step in the right direction for me, because I was always incredibly entrepreneurial. When I was brought into that first job at that small agency, nobody had ever done PR for that agency before. And I was brought in at like 22 years old to start up a PR department. And the owners of that company had always said to me, you know, you do whatever you need to do. Like, we're here to support you. And they gave me a structure to kind of really play in that entrepreneurial space. So when I went back to freelance after I had my son, my first child, I was like, oh, I'm like, this feels right to me. This feels exciting. And I loved kind of figuring out my own schedule and you know, what my own kind of clients could be. But the downside of freelancing is that you never want to say no to any work that comes in, because you're always like also having like that fear that, okay, if it, you know, what if you don't have enough, you know, in 6 months time, whatever it might be. So my little freelance business, you know, grew and grew and grew. And then I decided to have my second, my daughter. And my little freelance business grew a little bit too much for me to take on myself. I was like feeling a bit like overwhelmed with like the volume. And I didn't want to say no in case like there wouldn't be, I would be saying no to a larger opportunity because of it. So I, around that time in 2014, I had met my business partner now, Jess. So Jess is from Australia, and she's 7 years younger than me. And she had come to Canada, followed a boy, you know, to Canada to start up. To start up her career here.
Many great business stories start that way. Yes.
Oh yeah, and you know, lead you to other things. So she followed a boy to Canada, was having a hard time kind of breaking into the PR network here, and that's how we met. And we had a lot of magic together, like right away, and just recognized the opportunity to kind of position ourselves larger. So we kind of were doing work together as two different freelancers working together, and started to book some really big meetings. And we're like, oh, we don't want to kind of go in as being like Jess and Em, two freelancers. We want to go in as being to be, you know, look like a proper agency offering. So we started Shine. We started Shine on a complete whim. So that's kind of how like the evolution went from me and my career to what was originally Shine PR. And then when we launched Shine PR, we realized that we had to kind of carve out a niche for ourselves within, you know, the marketing industry. There's a lot of boutique PR agencies that exist. And through that, we saw an opportunity to start representing social talent, which nobody was really doing much of in Canada. And we did it honestly to try to drive more PR business. But that side of the marketing industry took off, you know, exponentially in 2015 and onwards. And now it's a core part of our business.
How did that come to you that we decided, well, you know, this is going to be what we're going to focus on? Was it a particular client that you're like, you know what, actually, we should sell this client, as you know, and then build off that? Or how did it I'm
curious, like, which comes first, the chicken or the egg? Because like, do you find the influencer person and then go find the company to help, you know, to match them up? Or do you have a company and then you go out and you find an influencer that, you know, like if you're talking about L'Oreal makeup, obviously you're not going to go for a young man, an athlete, for example, 'cause, you know what I mean? Like, you know, so which comes first? Like, how do you?
Yeah, sure. I'll answer both. So the way that we kind of felt like into the influencer category is because when we were trying to get our names known as Shine PR, we started hosting events for ourselves. We tried to get our name out there. So we started to host events. Jess and I know PR, we know events. We could do things on a dime because we would call in, favors and contra offers. And with that, we were meeting a lot of like bloggers at that time they became like friends of ours. And they started to say, like a lot of the PR agencies were coming to them wanting to like have them write articles or write about a new product or service. And like they didn't really know what to do because like they're not journalists, so it's not the kind of same thing as like a media relations pitch to a journalist. So there's kind of like a bit of a disconnect. And then they also the PR agencies also, they weren't like treating the relationship with the bloggers in the same regard as journalists. And it was kind of uncomfortable. So we recognized that there was an opportunity to kind of sit like right in the middle, because Jess and I knew PR really well, and we knew talent really well, just from like other, aspects of our lives and in PR dealing with different kinds of talent on programs. So we're like, we can do this. Like we can be right in the middle, and we can help like create value for the blogger influencer side, and we can speak the PR language. So we can help the PR agencies get what they need from the social talent, and help them be have really successful programs with their client. So that's how we kind of decided to fall into that niche. How it works specifically, it works on both ways. So we as an agency, we represent 90 talent, give or take. It changes like week by week exclusively, which means that like every program that they work on has to come through our agency. So if you are a brand or an advertising agency and you see one of our talent, you want to work with them, it automatically like comes through us. But then we also have like a really wide network of the brands and the agencies directly when they come to us and say, okay, Shine, we are launching a new phone case in the next 2 months. This is our target for the phone case. This is who we're trying to go after. This is kind of the goals that we have in the program. And we, as talent managers, have really high skills in terms of casting, and we help to match the brand with the appropriate talent, or the best talent who we can see to be able to carry through that program.
So and from the casting end, is there like not an audition, but do you look at their demographics and say, okay, this person has so many followers and we like the look of how do you make that judgment that this is a good fit for our agency?
Yeah. So like absolutely, a lot of it has to do with the back end analytics and the demographics, because you want to make sure the followership like matches in terms of who the target consumer is. Totally. And then it goes into things in terms of like content and style as well. Like, is that a match for the brand? And there's other programs that exist out there, like influencer kind of database programs, and they use a lot of algorithms to kind of pull these things together. The benefit of working with talent managers is we know all these other kind of like offline pieces of data. So we know what talent are like friends with each other. We know which ones really work well together. We know things about the talent's lives that are not public yet. We know when, maybe somebody is going to have another baby. We know when somebody is maybe going through a breakup. So we can kind of pull on other threads of their life that we're aware of to put together really genuine and authentic collaborations. And I think like that's where the PR background really comes into play. I never subscribed to the whole idea of like spin doctoring in PR. Like people have talked about PR practitioners being spin doctors. I never liked that. I never liked it at all. But I was always very good, and so was my business partner, about finding like the fun nuggets in anything that was really exciting. So Jess and I, my partner, we used to work on some like very dry, super dry B2B PR clients, like way back in the day when we were freelancing. And she and I could always find something that was like,
and that's hard.
But we could. And
I've done it. Yeah, I know exactly. I mean, I had a brief stint in my life when I was into advertising, and we were doing like, I did a summer internship in California, and it was IT, it was selling some IT thing. And you're like, I talk about like, wow, that's a stretch to make that like fun and interesting. You know what I mean? It's like B2B is tough. How do you you have kids? How, I mean, I guess you could probably utilize your kids' interest in stuff to also kind of help you in this influencer world
Yeah.
to like understand the TikToks and the Snapchats and all that kind of stuff. But then, like, just like, do you use them? Do you, I mean, not
Yeah,
use
have
them
they
in a bad way.
identified anybody to you? Like, you should check out
My
someone.
kids, my kids are pretty like young, like for like all of this. Like we work like in like the lifestyle, social talent. So like a lot of other like mommy bloggers and that kind of arena. My son is 10 and my daughter is 7. So it's really just my son who's like starting to like dabble and
Yeah.
being like a bit interested in YouTube. And I think it was Monica, you were speaking about your son who's into like gaming influencers or has a friend who's a gaming talent. Yeah,
Yeah.
so my son, he likes to watch like a couple of more like gaming influencers, which I think is really funny in the YouTube like space. So they give me like a little glimpse into what interests them at their age, but it's really, my team is on the younger scale. Like they're mostly, women in their young 20s, and they're tapped into this market in a whole other way, and they're incredible at identifying trends and really understanding these different platforms.
Does it make you feel young or does it make you feel old to have all these young people working for you and just how fast it moves? Like, I mean, I consider myself a techie person, and I feel like the world of the influencers and that whole dynamic and just the whole social media and YouTube and people listening to podcasts and all of it is just moving so fast, and there's so much information out there. And even in my own business, I think and you probably have the specific numbers of this about like how many times you have to be exposed to a message now to make it effective is like
Yeah, I
17.
think it's over 20. Like it used to be, but it used to say like you have to see a message 7 times in 3 different ways to call an action on a consumer. And now it's like 20 to 24. Like it's huge.
It's
Yeah.
huge. And it's because there's so much information out there. And like, and then you think about how that impacts our kids and like just the fact that they are just like they're soaking stuff in, and when we're getting all this information, and then and it just proves to you how fine-tuned people are, like PR agencies are, and all that into learning so much about their who they're talking about, like whether it's your 10-year-old son, whether it's my 19-year-old daughter, whether it's, and just what you're doing is you're kind of parlaying all that, and you just keep spinning it until it, and not to say the spin doctor, but you're spinning back into it to like, how do you find those people? And it's just an
the
amazing
technology
business.
of everything is it's just so quick. So I know that yesterday I was looking for a certain brand of sunglasses. I don't even remember Googling it or anything. I was chatting about it with a few people.
And it
Appeared
pops
on
up in your
I was like,
Yeah, that's freaking me out
have
a
I
little
been
bit.
spied upon? Now I'm afraid to. I'm gonna, write notes and just eat them.
Yeah, like we're gonna hold up signs.
Very different relationship.
I like this.
Facebook ads. Like I like my boyfriend and I like are on opposite ends of this. Because he hates it. He feels like there should be no tracking in that way. I'm like, I feel like to me, I'm like, it's like my personal shopper. So I feel like there's way too many brands and services. There's too many product options that are available to us today. It's not like 20 years ago when you're just going into a store, or even for the few shops that would have an online offering. Now we can get products from like all over the world. We can get products that are never even seen in stores. There's so many options. So people like social influencers and some of these like ad algorithms because it helps to cull down the options. It's not making the decision for you, but it does help to cull down like some options. And like we're busy people, busy mommies, and like I know that when I reference some of like the mommy bloggers on our talent roster, like I kind of appreciate seeing like what they use and what they're into. It doesn't make my every decision, but yeah, I appreciate that there's somebody who I like respect how they like run their lives or look up to, and that the products and services that make their life easier, like I kind of want to know about them too.
Well, and that's right. You've started something called BodCon. Like, what
Tell
can
us
you
about
tell us
that.
about that?
Yeah, I love the BodCon. So Jess and I, we love different ideas. There's probably a new idea, a new concept that we come up with and try like every 6 months. And as many like entrepreneurs would know, like most of them don't work. There's things that we've tried and kind of take it so far and stop for whatever reason. But the BodCon, it was something that has grown over the past like year and a half, and I love it. I love it so much. So this is a virtual conference that we developed, like all in the body confidence space. We have a lot of talent on our roster who speak to the body confidence movement. And I'm so proud of it because I feel that there's a lot of negative news about social media, and it absolutely does exist in terms of the negative results of like the impact of filters and like body image distortion that can happen like in the social media space. That is a truth. That's a problem there. But there's also this whole other side to social, which is this body confidence movement and these like incredible voices who are speaking out about what real bodies are, and giving people like different kinds of ambassadors like to look up to. And the mass that is happening is actually causing brands to market their products in a wholly different way. So we're not just seeing Dove and some of like the real pioneers like in the space. We're seeing so many different brands now come to us because we have a lot of the body confidence talent, social talent, and they as brands want to use them in their marketing material. They want to be showing real bodies. They want to be part of the conversation. And that's a direct impact of what the social media movements can do in the positive space. So we've been watching this. We really want to support it. Jess and I are by no means, body confidence experts ourselves, but what we do really well is bring community together. And that's what we did. So we had our first virtual conference. We brought in 45 speakers from, very unknown, small social talent who we found, who we just thought were awesome and should be heard, right up to celebrities like Jamila Jamil, who is an incredible voice in the space. And it was an incredible day. And from there, we decided we just didn't want to do it once a year. We wanted to kind of have opportunities to explore some of these topics like even further. So we are having now what we're calling like mini events leading up to the next conference in February. Our next one is on June 27th at 2 p.m. Eastern time. And it's all around exploring beach bodies, like breaking down the stigma of beach bodies. So it's going to be.
Yeah, mine's. I wish it was sooner. I'm going to the beach next week.
Yeah, yeah. We were talking.
Let me have that out there earlier.
The meme about like, I'm sorry, I ate too many tacos, so my beach body will be postponed to next summer. And,
yeah.
But yeah, you do, and I think you do that, and you could, from what you've said, you kind of evolved into this idea because you've tried on a lot of different things, just because you know so many things about these influencers, and kind of. So it seems like you started this. With just because it just seemed like it's something that needed to happen, and it took off, because it sounds like you try several types of things, and then when they take off, you're just happy that
and it's certainly very cutting edge in the media space. I mean, you've heard about it. It's been out there a little bit, but it's gotten in a much bigger way. Like when I read this, I immediately thought, going to their stores now, and all the mannequins are of various sizes and shapes, and they're advertising to trying to sell everybody, not just
the people who are yoga fitness.
Sports Illustrated, like the swimsuit edition of Sports Illustrated magazine, have been using more diverse bodies as like models in that iconic swimsuit edition of magazine. Like this is not just small scale now. Like this is like really becoming rooted in like a lot of pop culture and everything that we're seeing. So it's really powerful, and I feel like it's important. I feel like we're doing like really good work. I feel like we're bringing awareness to voices that like maybe didn't have enough of a profile beforehand. And my gosh, the community of people who have come out to the event so far, they're so fun, they're so great, and they're so like just genuinely like wanting to get involved in the conversation. And we're just incredibly proud to have like created something that allows for that.
That is great.
I mean, you're just obviously a forward thinker in that whole thing, which is just it's something that needs to happen. You're right, and everybody needs to feel comfortable. I mean, having a daughter who's in college, and that you just know that there's so many influencers there that are very conflicting about body image and such, and so it can get really tricky. So it's good to know, and hopefully all the positive that Shine does with that and BodCom does with that really can help so many of these kids that are just they're just in
my
really important
baby girl, like my little 7-year-old girl, like she said to me a couple weeks ago when, you know, she was like getting like out of like the tub, and she had said to me, you know, mommy, like I don't want to be fat when I grow up. And I was floored because
Yeah.
I so consciously do not speak about my body like around her. Like I don't, and I never have. And it really rocked me, because I was thinking, oh my gosh, like it doesn't matter. Even like, sure, you can be an example like to your children, but there's so many outside influences, and we need to be correcting this like on a bigger level.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. Well, Emily, we, as Inside the Moms Club, we have Zoomer moms who join us from time to time, and they are here right now. We'd like to introduce our Zoomer moms. So glad you could join us. Yeah, well, let me introduce you to Emily. First, we have Madison Carter from Salt Lake City, Utah, and she is the mother of 2 daughters, a 3-year-old dancer, by the way, very into dance, and an infant who we're not sure what Blair is gonna end up doing. She's a little
We're
early.
not there yet.
But these days, you know, from my puppy experience, I'm learning you can never be too early to start these things. So
yeah, hopefully dance.
yeah, well, I know you want that.
Don't use the spray bottle on Blair.
Yeah,
This
don't
is
do that.
Only a Luca thing.
If she bites you, don't spray her with the bottle. And Jennifer Marsh, who is the mother of a son and a daughter, and she lives in Austin, Texas. And welcome, Zoomer moms, and love you to ask some questions of Emily.
Hello.
I know. Would you like to start, Jennifer? Do you have any questions you'd like to ask Emily?
I would. You know, this is such an interesting space, the influencer, because it can be a good influence or a bad influence. And so it sounds like you find a way to kind of have your influencers be very authentic, which is tends to make them good influences because they believe in what they're doing and they won't do things that they don't feel good about. So it comes off as, you know, a much more, I mean, I think people on a subtle level understand when someone's being authentic and really promoting a product they believe in. But, you know, so many of, you know, my daughter is 19 and, you know, she's at that critical age where, you know, body consciousness is a big deal. And they, you know, how as a parent do you help them or have the conversation about knowing the difference between a good influence and a bad influence? We were just talking about Kim Kardashian and this big controversy happening right now about how she has allowed like this video out where you can tell that it's filtered. And they said,
I did see that. She has.
Yeah, and it's a big conversation. And we had an exchange student from Norway, and there's all these Norwegian influencers who do like all these things to their body, like plastic surgery, and it's kind of like a train wreck. You can't look away. It's not good. And I mean, I don't know how to sort of help them have a good understanding of how to pay attention when it's an important conversation, but look away or walk away, or, you know, it's something that they have to negotiate for sure.
And it's like stressful, I feel like, as a mom, like watching it like from afar and having a 19-year-old too. Like my team is made up of 21-year-olds to 30-year-olds predominantly, and I can see that like on like the younger end like as well. And I think at the end of the day, like helping to like guide your daughter into like following people who are passionate about the things that she is passionate about, you know, so like not getting kind of just like stuck in like one category of talent or only following like celebrities, but to like be following people that have like shared passions that she has. And I feel like that helps to kind of take it down to like a different space, because then you're following people who have like true passion or expertise in different areas. So I would say that to begin with. And then secondly, in the body like confidence space, I know within the conference, it was talked about a lot about how like we have like the power to kind of curate who we follow as well. Right. So there absolutely are like accounts of people who are disingenuous and all that, but there's so many who are in like the other space as well. So maybe like that's just something that you end up doing like together, that you kind of look for those different, like we call them a lot like more like mission-based influencers, like, you know, talent who like really stand for something like at their core. And body confidence is one that we're really passionate about, but there's lots of people in different spaces, and they're not too hard to find. So it could be something that you look at to do like with your daughter. I also would imagine that going through the different talent agencies websites, like that's kind of vetted talent on a different level. So you're not just like looking at people who are playing in the space, you're looking at people who have like crafted a whole career out of this. So it's a different caliber of talent, different caliber of copy, different caliber of like compliance in terms of things that they're putting out there. So that might be like a good place to start.
That's interesting. I hadn't thought about there being like people who are essentially curated and, developed a methodology versus people who are just kind of out there producing content. I mean, I saw on your website, you actually have like a mini course you can take in producing content, which I thought was interesting. I thought it would be great for my daughter to do that, to sort of understand the thought process behind how you make content, to sort of unravel what she's seeing.
Yeah, absolutely.
True.
How I guess you, by just looking at it more, but how do you really distinguish the genuine from the, like, I know when blogging really got going, one of the things they would tell you is, well, if you want to make money at it, you need to say something nice about, Joe's fish stand over there, and Joe will pay you a little on the side, and you just say something nice. And so it was not genuine. How do you come to the place where you think, okay, this is genuine. Or how do you figure that out? I mean, when you're making those decisions.
I always found that this was like a bit of the magic of social, and why I liked it so much more than traditional, even like media relations. Because even in media relations with magazines, if you're an advertiser in the magazine, they would favor you in terms of editorial. And I can say that, truthfully, because I worked in media relations for like 14 years.
Mm-hmm.
But on the talent side, on the social talent side, the community is self-correcting. The community knows. So when there's an endorsement, if a talent was to endorse something that was so outside their norm, their actual life, the community feels that, and they engage less. So the engagement would go down, the comments would go down, or the quality of comments would change. So if you look at the comment thread, and if people are just kind of posting like an emoji with like not much care, it's a different quality of content versus a talent, endorsing something or speaking about a product that they like actually found a ton of help with. And then the comment threads are like, where did you get that? What did you like about that specifically? What other uses have you had of that product? It gets to be a much more qualified like conversation. So those are some notes in terms of like, as a consumer, when you're looking at different talent, to try to discern which ones are actually just kind of like hawking product and which ones are actually like reviewing. I can tell you that in our contracts, like our talent have an out always. If they get the product or service and they don't like it, they always have an out. They always have an out.
That's good. Yeah, that's good to know. Are most successful or well-known influencers in the Instagram space, or are they bloggers? Are they people that have a following because they write about these things? I mean, or is it kind of a good mix of the two?
I like use like the term like bloggers at the beginning, like of Shine, because there was more like actual blogs with talent who are we call it like their primary platform being blogs. Shine very much honed ourselves into the Instagram world. Like we know Instagram as a social platform the most, like the absolute best. But YouTube is another incredibly strong platform. It's just a video platform. At Shine in the past like year and a half, we've also heavily invested into TikTok. So I have like 2 team members who are absolute experts in the space and incredible in terms of casting and understanding programming in the TikTok world. So it's not that that if you're a successful social talent, you have a big Instagram followership, you could have a really big YouTube followership. We have some talent who don't have Instagram at all, but they have 2 million plus TikTok followers. So it just depends on what their primary platform is. And we as an agency like specialize mostly in Instagram and TikTok.
Madison, do you have any questions for Emily?
Yeah, I'm just interested with Instagram algorithms. Obviously, whatever you're looking at, it kind of pushes out more of it. So you could look at like one contestant from The Bachelorette, and suddenly that's all that they're recommending. So is there a certain way to kind of, I don't know, make your algorithm help you find new followers that might have that more positive messaging than just celebrities?
Yeah. So it's who you follow. So on the consumer side, and the algorithm changes like all the time. So trying to like crack the code of the algorithm, it never works. But in terms of like for like the suggestions, that's what you're talking about, like as a consumer and like looking at different people. So and if you want to kind of expand the group of talent that you're looking at, you could use hashtags as searches, and then start following like some other people like in that space, and it will catch up to you that way in terms of making suggestions.
Cool. Yeah, I didn't know if it was like hashtags or who you're commenting on or how it really affects that area.
All of it, but if you're trying to like expand like out of your norm, like starting to follow some people in that other space, it will start to pick up and give you some other suggestions as well. I also like that tool like on Instagram. There's like the drop down. So if you find like one talent who's really like amazing, like we have Sarah from like the Birds Papaya, who's like a big champion in the body confidence space. And if you use like, there's a little drop down button that gives you suggested people who are similar like to Sarah in terms of like different talent to follow. Like that's a good tool to use if you're just trying to search and find different people.
Cool.
So if you are just starting out and you have a passion and you're sharing it with people, how would you develop your following as an influencer? I mean, I know a lot of people who they've started that, they have 20 followers or so, but how do you further that? How do you get that to grow? I had one, like talking about blogs years ago, I had a blog that eventually we had 40,000 followers, but we didn't do anything with it. So how do you suggest? And that was really based on just Facebook ads back then. That's basically what you did. And you just, and then we saw, different, like I wrote a blog and I'd get 10,000 likes on whatever I wrote about. How do you suggest people? I mean, good content, of course, is important, but what else makes a difference?
Well, when you're starting out, I don't think there's any talent who we represent who went into this for the career like of it. We have the talent who we represent, they genuinely like had like a passion in the space. So we have, fashion girls who people were always asking them where they got their clothes from. So they started to do an Instagram account just to kind of like capture all of that information. Or, a mommy talent who like just really wanted like a space to share like with their friends and family, like their children, their lives or their crafts or whatever it might be. So I'd say as like a starting point, and this actually comes up in that class that we were talking that we've done, the e-courses on Shine School, to start from a place of like a genuine passion. Don't try to do it to be the business. Do something that like your core about what makes you happy and what makes you excited. Start from that place. In terms of how to like grow followership, of course, if you want to use like ads to help you kind of like have some exposure outside of your network, that always does help at the beginning, but it doesn't necessarily develop like loyal followers. You might get them for a short period of time. Sometimes people do contesting. You kind of get people for a short period of time and they drop off. But if you want to build the kind of community that have like-minded values to you, are genuinely going to be interested in the products and services that you endorse, it's more of a slow build a lot of the time. You have to do things in terms of getting outside of your bubble of your followership. So creating opportunities to like interview other similar influencers who maybe you have a shared topic and maybe you do a Q&A with them or some sort of collaboration like on your socials is a way to kind of like expand like outside of your network. And gosh, like we're quite locked down here still in Toronto, but I know in like LA, they're not. Go back to just being, a networker and getting out there and being at live events. Social is like a direct representation of how networked you are, in the world. So just kind of approaching it the same way.
Mm-hmm. Well, and in Florida, I was just there. The whole state's vaccinated, so no one's wearing a mask. Everybody's out and about, networking and everything. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. Well, thinking back to the day when I had the blog, there's always social media is a lot of great aspects to it. But if you're the person putting the content out, there's always that little negative thing where there might be some followers or some people out there that are not so positive and are not so great.
Yep.
How do you advise your clients to deal with that? I mean, they might end up having a stalker. They might have somebody that's posting something that's pretty, vile that they don't want to be associated with. Do you kind of advise them on keeping their brand more positive, or how do they manage? What's your advice to them?
So, and I think because Jess and I come from a PR background, like I had a real passion for crisis communications when I was in just my media relations days. And I see that coming back really strongly, especially in like the past year and a half. There's been a lot of things that come up, and yeah, there are just like the people who are the trolls who are gonna be posting just to start like an argument. We actually had something that happened with the Shine pages a couple of weeks ago when we were posting about a charitable effort that we put forward. So it's out there. And I think it's just all in how you handle it. And it really actually is a great indicator for brands and agencies when they're looking to choose an influencer partner, a social talent to partner with, to see how they handle those comments on a thread, because they happen, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think everybody, sorry?
As it's such as life. I mean, people are always kind of out there. Yeah. I mean, you always got to learn how to have conflict resolution, right?
Absolutely. So I think, everybody has needs a chance to be heard as long as they're acting respectfully within regular community guidelines. If they're not, taking it to a different space or swearing or whatever it might be. If they have a respectful opposition of an opinion, everybody deserves to be heard. And I feel we always we only know what we know. And I feel as talent or anybody who has a public profile, you have to be humble with that as well. I know that there's always something that maybe you didn't know. So be open to the information, be open to hearing something different. You're also posting on a community forum that allows for conversation. Don't shut it down. But there's a level to it. And I think that we always if it's a respectful comment and it's just an opposition, be open to having the conversation. If it's getting to kind of a nasty place, you can always ask for that person to take it offline, try to set up a call with them, try to don't completely shut it down if it's something that you can learn from, or we can all learn from. There's a lot we always have to be open to learning more, but you can have guidance in terms of how you want your the conversations to transpire online. And if they are getting, as I said, to a disrespectful place or something that would be more harmful, then it is your choice as a talent to try to remove that or take it to a different forum.
So quickly, you said, TikTok, that's probably the latest thing that's really growing. Tell us, what's the next big thing? I mean, there's Clubhouse that's out there. What do you see as the next venue for aspiring influencers?
Jess, my business partner, loves Clubhouse. She loves Clubhouse. She's always on Clubhouse. I think Clubhouse has been a really great one to come out of the pandemic. I can say in terms of maybe not in terms of platforms that I'll call out, but I can say in terms of style of content, it's definitely towards more raw streaming content being produced, which can be placed on Instagram as well. But we do see a lot of we get a lot of emails from new streaming platforms who are looking to bring creators over to their space. So I think streaming and raw content in itself will be probably leading in terms of content trends.
Well, this is all great information, Emily. We are so thrilled that you were here. You shared such great information with us. Where can we find you on social media?
You can find Shine at Shine_influencers. It may be changed to Shine Talent Group depending on when this airs, but either Shine_influencers or Shine Talent Group. And then the BodCon is at the BodCon.
Great. Well, thank you so much. We've really loved having you here today. And we also want to thank our new sponsor, a podcast, What's Behind the Game, which is a podcast that interviews professionals and celebrity athletes. And they share their stories and their experience and their tips and tricks with the next generation of sports superstars. So you can find them on Apple and Spotify. And you can find us on social media on our website, InsideTheMomsClub.com. We're on Instagram at Inside the Moms Club. And we are now starting to do our own Clubhouse events. So we'll be sure and look for us on Clubhouse. If you're a Clubhouse member, we would love to have you join the conversation. So again, thank you so much. It's been I can't believe this has gone so quickly. I feel like our hour is, I can't even believe it's already over. But we'll be back next time with more celebrities and extraordinary moms just like you. We're so honored that you spent the time with us today. We know your me time is precious and valuable, and we want you to know that we see you and we hear you. Please remember our motto, which is, if you don't laugh sometimes, you're going to cry. Yep. Keep laughing, moms out there. It's the best way to spend your day. Trust me about that. We'll see you next time. Bye for now. See you on Inside the Moms Club.